Hello there. Come close, gather around, make yourself comfortable. It's almost like we're opening up the beautiful, glowing pages of a magnificent, giant storybook together today. We're going to dive into an epic tale of a family's absolutely incredible journey. I want you to imagine a story so big, so sweeping, that it literally feels like a breathtaking, high-budget CGI movie playing right before your very eyes. We're talking sweeping, golden sand dunes stretching out as far as the eye can see, vast starry skies twinkling over ancient lands. You can almost feel that ancient, wonderful magic hanging in the air, right? Well, this is a story about waiting for a very, very long time. It's a story packed with grand, daring rescues, about walking for miles and miles through hot, dry, unforgiving deserts. But most importantly, at its very core, it's about a love that simply refuses to ever give up on the people it holds dear. I am absolutely thrilled to share this magical journey with you. So open up your wonderful imagination and let's step together into this beautiful, ancient world of promises and freedom.
Now, I have to tell you, today's wonderful story comes directly from the amazing researchers and storytellers at Bible Project. And let me tell you why these folks are so incredibly amazing. They literally spend their days looking so closely at ancient, beautiful languages, digging incredibly deep into history, just to uncover hidden secrets that make our storybook even more exciting and real for us today. They've done such a beautiful, careful job bringing these ancient, dusty words to bright, vibrant life. And parents, just a quick reminder for you, if you want to explore the original source of this story with your family, you can find the link to Bible Project right below the video. We are just so incredibly grateful to them for providing all the rich, beautiful details that we're going to explore together today.
So let me ask you something really important. Have you ever had to make a really big, unbreakable promise to someone you love? You know, maybe a promise to a dear friend that you would always, always be there to help them, or a special promise you made to your parents. Well, long, long before our story even begins today, God made a giant, completely unbreakable promise to a man named Abraham. God actually took Abraham outside, pointed way up at the dark, inky night sky, and promised that Abraham's family would grow to outnumber all of those sparkling stars. He promised they would become a massive blessing to the entire world. And you know what? That big, beautiful promise is actually the invisible golden thread that ties this whole incredible story together. It's such a wonderful reminder for all of us, isn't it? A reminder about how incredibly important it is to keep our promises to the people we care about in our everyday lives.
Okay, let's picture this sweeping journey across history. Our story picks up a long, long time after Abraham. We're talking 4 entire hundreds of years have passed. Abraham's family has grown into a massive, massive group of people called the Israelites, and they're living far, far from home in the land of Egypt. But things are not happy at all. They're stuck in terrible, agonizing slavery. Can you even imagine what 400 years of waiting felt like? Generations upon generations of families had to carry heavy, rough stones under the blistering sun. Their backs were aching, constantly crying out for help. Over those 4 long centuries, that beautiful promise made to Abraham under the stars, well, it must have felt so distant, almost like a fading dream. But their incredible, unfolding path goes from those dark centuries of waiting in Egypt to one miraculous night of rescue, to weeks wandering in a scorching desert, until they finally arrive at a towering mountain called Sinai. And every single step of this long, hard journey is God keeping that unbreakable promise he made so long ago. To really, truly understand this story, we have to look closely at the 2 very different leaders involved here. On one side, we have the mighty king of Egypt, known as Pharaoh. He is cruel, he's mean, and he has a monstrously stubborn heart. You know, when someone has a heart that hard, it makes them completely blind to the tears and the suffering of others. He treats the Israelites terribly and only wants to hurt them so he can build his own giant kingdom. But then, on the exact opposite side, God raises up our central hero, Moses. Now, Moses isn't some loud, angry warrior charging in with a sword. Not at all. He is a man with a steady, gentle, very quiet faith. Remember, Moses was actually completely vulnerable once. He was saved from a dangerous river in a tiny, fragile little basket when he was just a little baby. And now, God has chosen this very humble, gentle man to lead his people out of that darkness and right into freedom. The stark contrast between Pharaoh's dark, hard heart and Moses' steady, trusting, gentle heart is just truly incredible to witness. Now, I want you to put yourself right into Moses' dusty shoes for just a second. Imagine the absolute isolation of Moses' life as a shepherd. He spent his days in the profound, echoing quiet of the wilderness, completely alone with his sheep, miles and miles away from any cities or big crowds. Imagine the dry, dusty smell of the desert air and the deep, deep silence all around him. Then suddenly, what if you saw a bush glowing with brilliant fire, but the leaves weren't turning to black ash? The branches weren't breaking or crumbling at all. It was just burning and burning, bright and beautiful, without ever being destroyed. Would you be scared? Would you be totally amazed? You'd probably rub your eyes, right? Convinced you were just dreaming in the desert heat? Well, that is exactly the sheer wonder and the absolute surprise Moses felt when this massive interruption broke right into his quiet life. Picture those crackling, bright orange and fiery red flames dancing wildly around the fresh green leaves of the bush. It's wonderfully warm and just blindingly bright against the dull brown desert landscape. Moses' heart is racing in his chest, thumping so loudly in his ears. His hands are trembling as he slowly, carefully takes off his shoes. He can feel the hot sand beneath his toes, because he suddenly realizes he's standing on truly holy ground. And then, a mighty, loving voice calls out to him from the very center of the roaring flames. It's God. As Moses hears the voice, a profound realization just washes over him. The very God of his ancestors is speaking directly to him. God tells Moses that he has heard the desperate cries of his people, and he is sending Moses back to Egypt to set them free. Even though Moses is so scared and entirely unsure of himself, this beautiful, terrifying, glowing fire changes his life forever. As Moses bravely goes back to rescue the people, we run into a really big, beautiful word: redemption. Let me explain this with a gentle, sweet little analogy. Imagine you see a sweet, innocent little puppy locked away in a cold, dark, frightening cage. The puppy is sad and lonely, and the only way to save it is to pay a very, very high price to buy its freedom, physically open that heavy door, and bring it home to a soft, warm bed. Can you imagine the pure, wiggling joy of that puppy when the cage door finally swings open and it leaps right into your arms? Well, that is exactly what redemption is. It means purchasing the freedom of someone who is hopelessly trapped. It means rescuing someone you love dearly from a very bad situation. God looks at the Israelites trapped in their dark cage of slavery in Egypt, and he says, I am going to redeem you. I am going to pay whatever it takes to bring you out of that dark cage and into the bright light of freedom. But remember, Pharaoh's heart is monstrously stubborn. He completely refuses to let the people go, even when God sends powerful, frightening plagues to warn him. So God has to do something very serious to defeat the heavy evil hanging over Egypt. But right in the midst of this, he provides a miraculous way to keep his people totally, completely safe. He tells them to share a special family meal using a Passover lamb. This lamb is a protective, merciful substitute. Imagine the tense atmosphere of that night. The families are huddled closely together inside their small homes, holding each other tight. They can hear the sounds of the terrifying plagues echoing outside in the dark streets. But inside they feel completely secure and peaceful because of God's merciful substitute. It's a beautiful, vivid picture of God's deep mercy, providing a safe, unshakable shield to protect the families he loves so very much amidst all that severe danger. So Pharaoh finally tells the people to leave, but then, in his typical stubbornness, he quickly changes his mind and sends his fierce army to chase them. The Israelites find themselves totally trapped at the edge of the deep, dark Red Sea. But God does something absolutely amazing. Think about it. How would you feel walking between two giant, roaring walls of deep blue water? Imagine the loud, thunderous sound of the roaring water miraculously holding itself back. Imagine looking to your left and your right and seeing strange, wonderful sea creatures swimming in the massive walls of water, standing up straight like clear glass. You can feel the damp, salty smell of the ocean floor, which is now completely dry beneath your feet, letting you pass safely into freedom. It is literally the most breathtaking, wonderfully impossible escape you could ever possibly imagine. And this brings us to another beautiful, powerful word: salvation. Simply put, salvation means being safely rescued from terrible danger. When the Israelites step onto the dry, warm sand on the exact opposite side of the sea, they are finally safe. The massive walls of water crash down behind them, and Pharaoh's army cannot ever reach them again. They are so overwhelmed with pure, unfiltered joy and relief that they stand right there on the shores and sing the very first song of worship in the whole Bible, the Song of the Sea. Imagine the joyous ringing of tambourines, the happy dancing in the sand, and the bright, huge smiles on their faces. They sing beautifully about how God loved them, how he fought for them, washed away their fierce oppressors, and brought them true salvation.
But you know, the story doesn't just end on that joyful beach. Suddenly, the harsh reality of their long journey sets in. They step away from the cool water and into the stark, unforgiving desert. The contrast is incredibly stark. At first, there's deep emotional relief. I mean, they're finally free. No more heavy stones, no more slavery. But very, very quickly, that relief mixes with completely different, difficult feelings. Their tummies start to rumble and growl with hunger. Their water skins run completely dry. They look out at the endless beige sand and start to feel very afraid, very small, and very lost. It's a deeply complicated emotional time. It actually shows us how quickly human beings can forget a massive miracle when their stomachs start to growl. They're saved, yes, but now they have to learn how to truly trust God in this scary, barren new place. Close your eyes for a second and imagine the hot, blinding sun beating down fiercely on your shoulders. How hot and how tired would your feet feel walking day after day, week after week, across endless, scorching, dusty desert sand? Everyone is utterly exhausted, they're thirsty, and honestly, they're terribly cranky. And right in the middle of all this is Moses. The immense pressure he feels is staggering. He is trying so incredibly hard to bravely lead millions of complaining people who are acting a lot like frightened, upset children. It is an incredibly heavy burden for such a gentle man. He loves them deeply, but they are constantly complaining, and he has to constantly turn around and ask God for help. He asks for water from rocks and for food to literally fall from the sky just to keep them all alive in this harsh, unforgiving wasteland. Finally, after weeks of exhausting travel, they arrive at the foot of a massive, rocky mountain called Mount Sinai. And then something awesome and honestly slightly frightening happens. A huge, dark, rumbling storm cloud comes down from the sky and rests heavy upon the jagged peak of the mountain. You can actually feel the physical rumbling of the ground shaking beneath their tired feet. There's flashing lightning, booming thunder, and a loud, piercing trumpet sound. It is the very presence of God coming down to deeply meet them. It is so powerfully wild and untamed that the people are trembling in awe. But God isn't there to hurt them. He's showing them his majestic power, a power that is wonderfully safe for those he loves, because he wants to warmly invite them into something incredibly special. Right here on this shaken mountain, we learn the word covenant. Think of a covenant like a very special, unbreakable family agreement. Imagine when two people get married. They stand together and make a beautiful promise to love, protect, and take care of each other forever. That is a covenant. God is looking at all these frightened, tired people standing under the mountain, and he's saying, I rescued you from Egypt because I love you. Now I want us to be a family forever. I don't just want your obedience, I'm asking for your hearts. I will be your God, protecting you and blessing you, and you will be my special, treasured people. It is a beautiful, deeply loving invitation to a forever relationship. Now, to help them truly be part of this special family, God gives them the 10 Commandments. Sometimes people mistakenly think of commandments as just strict, boring rules that ruin all the fun. But actually, scratch that. They are special, wonderful, loving gifts. Imagine you're playing a really fun new game with your friends, but nobody knows the rules. It would just be confusing, chaotic, and someone might get hurt, right? The rules are exactly what make the game fun and safe for everyone. The 10 Commandments are God's loving instructions. For example, rules like always telling the truth or not taking things that belong to someone else. These rules create a safe, peaceful neighborhood where everyone can be genuinely happy and trust each other. They are gifts designed to help the Israelites transition from being broken slaves into a beautiful, free kingdom of priests who love God and love each other. You see, God doesn't want to stay far away in a scary, thundering storm cloud on top of a rocky mountain. He wants to live right down in the very middle of their camp. He wants to be intimately close to them. So he gives Moses the exact, brilliantly detailed blueprints, like incredibly complex architectural drawings, to build a magnificent, beautiful, sacred tent right there in the dusty desert. The sheer detail is breathtaking. The creator of the entire universe cared enough to design everything down to the very last tiny tent peg and loop of thread. This shows his profound, deep desire to live closely with humanity. This sacred tent is going to be God's beautiful home on earth, a holy place where his glowing presence can dwell safely and lovingly among his people. Just imagine the stunning contrast. Outside, everything is just bleak, beige, blowing dust and hot sand. But God tells them to build this tent using glowing colors of deep blue, bright royal purple, and vibrant fiery red. Imagine the tactile feel of those incredibly soft, magnificent fabrics slipping through their rough hands. He tells them to use shimmering threads of solid gold, beautifully carved, fragrant wood, and heavy gold rings that clink together beautifully in the desert wind. It is an absolute visual feast. The bright royal purple stands out so brilliantly against the bleak desert outside. Every single tiny detail is designed by God to be incredibly beautiful, rich, and full of glowing light, showing just how deeply precious and wonderful it is to be in God's holy presence.
If you look closely at all those beautiful decorations inside the tent, you'll see lush, vibrant garden symbols carefully woven into the soft fabric and delicately carved right into the shimmering gold. There were gorgeous pictures of blooming almond trees, ripe, juicy pomegranates, and gentle winged guardians. Now, why all these plants and trees in the middle of a desert? Because God is essentially building a mini Garden of Eden right in the middle of the hot, dead desert as a beautiful promise of what is to come. He's using vibrant garden imagery to remind us of the very beginning of the world, when everything was absolutely perfect, and humans lived closely with God in a beautiful, safe garden. It shows God's deep, unchanging love for beauty and his incredible desire to completely restore that close, loving relationship with us.
But then, oh, it's so sad. While Moses is still high up on the mountain, getting all these beautiful, loving instructions, something incredibly tragic happens down below. The people get impatient, waiting. They make a terrible, tragic mistake. They gather all their precious gold, melt it down, and build a statue of a golden calf. And they actually start worshiping it. No way, right? Imagine the chaotic, loud noise of their wild partying and shouting echoing up the mountain, while Moses is up in the silent, holy, peaceful presence of God receiving blueprints for their future. The contrast makes the mistake hit so much harder. They break the very first, most important promises they just made in their brand new covenant family agreement. It's completely heartbreaking. It's like a terrible slap in the face to God's faithfulness after he just saved them from brutal slavery and promised to love them forever. God is so deeply hurt and profoundly grieved by this awful betrayal that he tells Moses he might just walk away from them entirely. But right here, Moses steps up as an incredible, brave, gentle leader. Moses reminds God of his promise to Abraham and pleads with God to spare them. It's a weird but profoundly beautiful conversation. Moses bravely puts himself right between God's heavy grief and the people's terrible mistake. This is the ultimate moment of gentle leadership. Just think about how much Moses must have grown, from the incredibly frightened man shaking at the burning bush to now boldly negotiating with the creator of the universe. He reminds God of that big, unbreakable, starry night promise made to Abraham, showing incredible growth and a deep, fierce love for the very people who just made such a terrible mistake.
Have you ever made a really, really big mistake and thought you had absolutely ruined everything? That you had broken a promise so badly that it could never be fixed? Well, that is exactly how the Israelites must have felt. But God feels the immense grief and the stinging pain of being betrayed, looks at Moses, and he makes a wonderfully different choice. God chooses faithfulness. He chooses gentle forgiveness. He chooses second chances. Even though it cost him deeply, even though his heart is deeply hurt, he decides that he is going to faithfully keep his promise to Abraham. He forgives the people and graciously agrees to stay with them. It's a wonderfully warm, comforting reminder for us that even when we mess up and make really big mistakes, God's love and forgiveness are always so much bigger, and he always, always offers us a beautiful second chance. Because of that beautiful, undeserved forgiveness, the people joyfully get to work and finally finish building the sacred tent exactly as God designed it. And then the most awe-inspiring, incredible moment happens. God's glorious, glowing presence physically moves. It comes down from the scary, jagged mountain storm cloud, and it sweeps gently into the very center of the camp, completely filling the beautiful, glowing tent they just built. Imagine the sheer awe of the Israelites watching this happen. The shimmering gold and colorful fabrics are brightly illuminated from the inside by the brilliant, warm light radiating from God's presence. That holy light shines out and brightly lights up the amazed faces of everyone standing in the camp. God has finally, truly moved in to live right among his beloved people. But wait, the story ends with a very surprising twist.
Moses, our brave hero, the one who built the tent and spoke face to face with God, walks eagerly up to the entrance, but he can't go inside. As Moses' hand reaches for the heavy, beautiful curtain of the tent, he feels an invisible wall of intense, holy heat that stops him right in his tracks. The presence is too intensely pure, and the sad fracture in the relationship from the golden calf is still too deep to ignore. Moses is left standing quietly outside the very tent he helped build. It leaves us with a quiet, lingering mystery and a very big question. Why couldn't Moses go inside the beautiful tent? And how in the world are they ever going to fix this relationship so they can truly be close to God again? Well, my friends, that is a wonderful, thought-provoking puzzle that we will absolutely explore together next time.